48% of voters think it is either very or somewhat likely that Biden will be replaced as the Democratic nominee on the presidential ballot in November. That's according to a Monmouth University survey released on February 15th, and it's nothing short of a stunning finding, one that reflects the persistent concerns among American voters regarding President Joe Biden's age. He'll be 81 years old on Election Day and would be 86 at the end of a potential second term. Poll after poll shows voters are genuinely concerned that Biden may just be too old for the job. And fair or not, they are much less concerned about Trump's age. He'll be 78 on Election Day and 82 at the end of another term. Now, contrary to this poll's findings, as well as the growing conspiratorial belief dominating the discourse on Twitter these days, Joe Biden is highly unlikely to drop out of the race. He has shown no signs of willingness to step aside, and as we'll get to later on in this video, it's just too late for Democrats to have any confidence in a Plan B. That being said, if Joe Biden were to drop out of the running for the Democratic nomination prior to the Democratic convention this summer, it is very, very likely that the party would usher Vice President Kamala Harris into the spotlight as his replacement. It's just too late in the game at this point for another major candidate to jump into the race, no matter how enthusiastic Democratic voters may be about Harris's candidacy. Now, would another big-name Democrat like Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer be a more popular general election candidate? Probably. I think that's part of the reason why Newsom is far and away the second most popular pick to become the Democratic nominee on PredictIt right now, even well ahead of Harris. But I'm sorry, Democrats, and America, I guess. Barring something extraordinary happening, the 2024 Democratic nominee will either be Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. So with all of that being said, if Biden were to be replaced by Kamala Harris, what impact would that have on the 2024 electoral map? Any predictions would be speculative by nature, but there is some data we can use to inform them just a little bit. Real Clear Polling has actually produced an average for this very scenario, one that shows Trump leading VP Harris by 6.6%. The three polls included in this average from Emerson College, Harvard-Harris, and Fox News dating back to November of 2023 range from Trump plus 3 all the way up to Trump plus 12. And looking at all of the different polls assessing this matchup going all the way back to 2022, Harris has led in just 3 of the 30 polls. That paints a pretty clear picture that Harris would underperform Biden's polling numbers against Trump. The incumbent president currently trails by around 1 to 3 points, depending, of course, on which average you're looking at. And he generally just looks much more competitive than Harris does. Saying that, of course, it's totally not fair to compare the two exactly, because it's not like poll responders are answering these surveys operating under the assumption that Harris will be the 2024 Democratic nominee. If she really did become Democrats' only option, a lot of those hesitant voters, I guess, would probably suck it up and back her when all is said and done. There are not that many Biden voters out there who would not also vote for Kamala Harris. Though in an electoral environment where every vote in just a few battleground states really does count, it could make a difference. In terms of sheer popularity, Kamala Harris is one of the most unpopular vice presidents of our time, currently sitting at a net negative 14.6% approval rating, according to 538. Now again, fair or not, people just don't like her. She's just as unpopular as Biden, without the appeal of Biden's experience and statesmanship on the job. And unless Biden resigned from office prior to the election, she would lose the incumbency factor that has been well documented to be a significant boosting factor historically. And so, with all of that said, I do think it's fair to say that whatever the pathway is for Joe Biden to reach 270 electoral votes this November, Kamala Harris's path would be slimmer. Even the most optimistic forecast for Biden right now only nets him the narrowest of electoral college victories. With Harris at the top of the ticket instead of Biden, she would still, of course, hold on to the safe blue states of Washington, Oregon, California and Hawaii, Colorado, Illinois, New York, Maine's 1st Congressional District, Vermont, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, D.C., Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. And she would still have no shot at winning the safe Trump states of Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska at large, as well as the 1st and 3rd Congressional District, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, and South Carolina. Each of these states went to Biden, or Trump, by margins greater than 10% in 2020. And while some of these slightly less deep blue states, like New Jersey, Illinois, and maybe Oregon, may teeter closer to the likely Democrat rating, it's not like they'd have a chance of flipping. Hillary Clinton was just as disliked as Harris in 2016, and she still won these states comfortably. Now, we can also safely project that Alaska, Texas, Florida, Iowa, and Ohio, and Maine's 2nd Congressional District would favor Trump by pretty large margins again in 2024, just as they did in 2020. Even in a best-case scenario for Biden, he would probably not win any of these states, so there's no reason at all to say that Harris would contest them. Now, as for the rest of these states, if we were to uniformly shift the 2020 margins in each of them by, say, 4 to 5 points to the right, which is roughly the gap between Biden and Harris's national polling averages, measured against Trump right now, the following states would probably go down as leaning towards Trump: Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And Nebraska's 2nd District would likely go into this Trump category, pushing him well past 270, all the way up to 312. Meanwhile, New Mexico, Minnesota, Virginia, New Hampshire, and Maine statewide would all probably drop down from likely Democrat to lean Democrat in this scenario. And if we wanted to get more specific, using my latest forecast averages, which are based on heaps and heaps of data that you can check out on this spreadsheet on electionpredictionsofficial.com, if we were to apply a universal 5-point shift away from Harris and the Democratic Party in favor of Trump and the Republican Party in every state, Nevada would become R plus 6.1, Arizona R plus 6.8, both would stay in the lean Republican territory. Georgia would become exactly R plus 7, and North Carolina R plus 9.2, both likely Republican states. The Keystone State, Pennsylvania, would remain lean Republican at R plus 4.8, as would Michigan at R plus 5.6. Nebraska 02 would become R plus 1.6. That's actually just a tilt Republican margin. Minnesota would be D plus 1.2, a tilt Democrat margin. New Hampshire would also join Minnesota at exactly D plus 1.2 as well, while Maine's statewide contest would become D plus 2.1, remaining lean Democrat. As would Virginia, the margin there would be D plus 4.1, and all the way over in New Mexico, it'd be D plus 3.7. The state of Colorado, meanwhile, would drop into the likely D territory at D plus 6.6. And then for the likely Republican states, Alaska, Texas, Florida, Ohio, Iowa, and Maine 02 would all shift into safe Republican territory, as the forecasted margins in these 5 states and district are all above 7 points right now in favor of the GOP. This is obviously not a very good-looking map for the Democratic Party. The Electoral College margin, 313 to 225, may not look insurmountable at face value, but the margin gains it would take in order to flip enough states to reach 270 almost assuredly is. And so, while this is not exact science by any means, this hypothetical should serve as a reminder, or an explanation, I suppose, for why the Democratic Party does not seem very eager to replace Biden on the ticket. Their backup plan is highly unlikely to improve their odds at retaining the White House, and there's just no feasible Plan C at this point either. It's Biden or effectively nothing. No matter how old he is, no matter how many gaffes he makes or has on stage, no matter how concerned voters get, he is Democrats' best shot, unless Trump encounters his own problems that may force him to drop out of the race. But I'll save that for another video in the coming days. Make sure to subscribe to my channel down below so you don't miss that video. That does it though for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you think of this map, as well as any other videos you would like to see in the future. Shout out to my channel members on screen here. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like to become a member, go ahead and click the join button below this video to receive exclusive perks. Make sure also to subscribe to my channel down below, and please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Also, make sure to check out electionpredictionsofficial.com for my 2024 presidential election forecast as well. You can check out more content from my channel here. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. EP out.